Welcome to the Legion of Thought. Here's why brain uploading is a bad idea. It is not a way of gaining immortality, at least not in the way that we normally look at it. In the conversation about AI Doom, sometimes you'll have people bring up, oh, well, let's just upload our brains onto the computer or merge with the AI or whatever, and we'll live forever that way. But the thing is, if we look at the self as the consciousness that you have lived with or the consciousness that you are, let's say you're 25 years old. So on this timeline, you've lived for 25 years. If we made a clone of you, because this is essentially what um, brain uploading is, so we make a digital clone, or we might make like a robot clone. Anyway, so if now we've got to 25 years, we make this new clone, and this is essentially uninterrupted, and then we delete the original. That is still a philosophical death, even though there is an identical consciousness carrying on, then is that you? And the thing is, if we look at it a slightly different way, so if we undo the deleting you, let's say we continued for a little bit, so you and the new digital you actually lived for a little bit at the same time. There's an overlap. So now there's two yous. If there's two of them, are they really both you? They're not. So if it got to the point that there were the two, and you and the robot you are standing there looking face to face, and whoever did the process comes in and says, well, there can't be two of you, we have to get rid of one because this was supposed to be an upload, would you volunteer or would you not be fussed to be the one who is deleted? Would you prefer for the other you to be deleted or the original you to be deleted? And if there's a difference between the two, then that's just more evidence that these two are not the same thing. So brain uploading is not actually uploading the self, it is creating a clone of yourself. And this is the same as the way that teleportation is, at least like in Star Trek and some other things. So if we have like, you've got like a teleportation base, what's actually happening, even if it's the same atoms, we break you into pieces and then we reassemble the pieces on the other side. The thing is, because we don't understand enough about consciousness and the way that consciousness works, we don't know if, in the process of you being shredded to atoms and being reassembled, we don't know if you cease to exist there and that this is essentially a clone, especially if we weren't actually moving the actual atoms and we're just building a new you in the new place out of new atoms, and that's just a clone. So the fact that we delete the original is kind of just obfuscating the fact that the new one is a clone. It is not the original. Um, Another thing that we can look at is, so a way of potentially getting around this that may or may not work. Again, we don't know enough about consciousness, but if I were going to do this, there are two ways that I would look at getting around it. So number one would be to have, and this one's a bit more dubious, I think. Number one is to have the original you, and so well, not upload, you clone the original you and make a digital copy. And then what you do is the digital copy in its virtual world, it can have whatever experiences it's having. I mean, like, let's say it goes on holiday or whatever. So you upload your brain, you go on this holiday, and then what we do is we feed the new you who has had the holiday back into your original brain. Now, there's at least two problems with this. The first problem is that when we overwrite what's in your brain, is that self deletion. And then we also have the fact that when we write the you back into your brain, are we going to delete the you in the computer? Because then that's inhumane. Because if we were looking at this as though it's a real person, what we've done is we've created a real person to use them to steal their memories and then to give him a philosophical death. So that version is more messed up than the other version. The other version is based on the ship of Theseus. So that's a an old thought experiment. So we've got this ship. It's made of parts. Over time, let's say we have to replace um I don't know how massive ships work, but let's say we have to replace the rudder, we have to replace the sails, we have to replace each part of the ship one by one until eventually we have a new ship, even though this ship should actually be, it should look identical. So let's do that. Um, so eventually we have a new ship, and the question is this still the same ship, even though it's not made out of any of the same stuff that it originally was? But again, if we're looking at the self as a continued consciousness, and this consciousness is essentially an arrangement of patterns, and your consciousness changes more than the ship potentially, because over 25 years you're having all these new experiences and whatever, and your consciousness changes gradually, but because it's essentially continued apart from sleep, because it's a continued consciousness, we still count this as the you. It's a continued general pattern of brain states kind of thing that are changing over time. Um, so what we could potentially do if we're talking about brain uploading, and I know that if you're religious, then there is more to you than just the physical pattern of the brain. But let's say that you are just a physical pattern in your brain, then if we did a ship of Theseus brain upload and make sure you're awake during the whole process and you can opt out at any point during the process, if we take a section of your brain and swap it with a computer part that does the same thing, and then we take another part, we swap it with a computer part that does the same thing, we take another part, we swap it with a computer part that does the same thing, and we do this gradually until the whole of your brain is a robot brain. Let's say the whole of your brain is like this computer chip thing, even though it'd be multiple parts. But we do it until your whole brain is that, but you've been awake for the whole process. That is the only way that I may sort of potentially feel safe doing it. But then I think a problem with that is the fact that it's still possible, especially how we don't know how the brain works. What if there is something else besides just the physical brain that we've got? What if there is some sort of magic, as people say, in the like microtubules or whatever? If there's something that is going on um, in our brain that has to happen biologically for it to be real, then you are still potentially causing a philosophical death. And what if, even though you're awake the whole time, what if it's essentially like the boiling frog? This is supposed to be a frog. Doesn't look very froggy. Um, Maybe it's saying ribbit. But anyway, what if it's essentially a boiling frog where your consciousness, your true consciousness, is gradually fading away? So those are sort of the main problems that I see with brain uploading and a potential solution. I know that detractors, I did kind of gloss over the sleep thing, but it is possible that how I say that you've got 25 years of essentially uninterrupted consciousness. No, you're sleeping what thousands of times. So what if we have you for a day and then you go to sleep and it's actually a new you the next day? And there was a philosophical death of the previous you, and then it's a new you the next day, and then there's a philosophical death of the previous you, then maybe there isn't anything wrong with just making a new digital you, and it's essentially the same as going to sleep and waking up. However, I mean, I personally wouldn't want to take that risk. And if I were to wake up, I say if there were if I were told today, oh, you are actually a robot version of the old you, I would still feel some sort of mourning for the previous me, because I would still feel like that person um suffered a death. So would I willingly go into a situation where no one has been able to show me philosophically why that's going to be a continuation of me? No, I wouldn't. So this being a kind of hand wavy point that people make about will be immortal in the cloud, as a way of getting around potential AI doom, does not make sense to me. So what do you think? Comment below, and thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.